Humor is a result of the separation of conventions used on language, in the case of specifically language, of course. Breaking specific rules of a language produces something similar to what would be humor. If it is not dissonant, if it is not weird for a hearer, it is humorous probably. The study of these rules that govern our environment and therefore our speech is pragmatics. Humor itself, let's define it first, always results from the union of two ideas which involve some sort of contradiction. Such as serious academic literature, like Games and Decisions, being read by a figure that is not supposed to be funny. Given the nature we assign both entities, it's supposed to be funny because a clown never needs to read something as complex as Games and Decisions, and Games and Decisions is not to be read by a clown. This is humor, as both parts in a specific environment, they belong to each one. This is for mathematicians, this is for family entertainment. They have different settings, but alas, when you join them you get humor. There's no natural coordination between color makeup and hilarity in the wild. The figure of a clown is just a social and cultural convention for what is funny. One would think that only because one is dressed as a clown should be funny. It is not, and probably you can see this phenomenon if no one is laughing right now. Speaking of cultural conventions, in language, the conventions offer a standard way to construct written expression in a manner that meets people's expectations. Humor breaks these conventions by joining elements that are foreign to each other, fooling people's expectations about what was said and what was supposed to be said. Yet the comical utterances must remain mostly identifiable by a listener so it can be funny in some sense. Besides, to carry out any fruitful conversations, there are some rules that are described. It is stated to be the cooperative principle, which proposes 4 maxims for communication. When any of the 4 is violated or flouted, the humor might come generated. Violating these maxims is as easy as saying, "Our friend, hello, how are you?" To which I respond, "I don't think you're fat, but you might need to cut down on some things you might like. You might have to stop eating pizza." This lacks manners, it is not relevant, it is more information that was asked, and stating that I don't think you are fat means I have no evidence, it's just that I think. This violates all 4 maxims in the cooperative principle. Humor challenges the felicity conditions of a statement or a situation. These conditions are those needed to check whether if a sentence is true or not, or an utterance, not specifically a sentence, as demonstrated as follows. Let's say this kid had their pet hamster die, and he says, "Mr. Homeless Person," I am a homeless person in this case, "Mr. Homeless Person, can you bring my pet hamster back from the dead?" To which the homeless person responds, "No." In that case, the felicity conditions are not met. Interestingly enough, entertainment and art like literature, movies, and theater are violations of maxims, for they usually convey information that is later revealed to be false. Of course, everyone knows they are false, in some degree. However, they must follow a progression for them to portray a whole story, even though they set their own ambience, they set their own world in which other laws might apply that are not in our current world. Furthermore, implicatures in humor can have such an effect that a single utterance, punchline, a whole utterance that is also the whole joke, can be perceived as very funny even if there's a lack of context before and after this utterance. This is specifically true for dark humor, in which a whole sentence, an only sentence, it's funny by itself. Burn victims often stick together. Turns out too that not all people enjoy the same kind of comedy, and it has to do with the connotations that they find which are personal, and they are said to be a pragmatic effect that arise from encyclopedic knowledge about its destinations or reference, and also from experiences, beliefs, and prejudice about the context in which the expression is typically used. It is not only cultural, but also a personal bias to what you received, and it corresponds to the background and conceptions about the world that the listener possesses. As it seems then, this humor challenges the common rules of regular speaking. Pragmatic answers the why of human communication, what is necessary to be said, is it appropriate to be said, and humor is a negative response to it, as it challenges this definition and furthermore expands the literature about pragmatics through the negation, what happens if we don't follow these rules. Thank you.